Hello, book lovers. I wanted to take a moment to tell you about another book that I read recently. This I read right before I did the Halloween Lizzie Borden makeup extravaganza, just to kind of refresh my memory. And because there are some books about Lizzie Borden I haven't read. Anyway, this is the newest one. It's called The Borden Murders, Lizzie Borden and the Trial of the Century by Sarah Miller. And I like this book very much. She did not go in with a preconceived idea of who committed this crime. She just researched it and let it lead, and she followed. The interesting thing is she did come up with a new piece of evidence. That was exciting. And what that had to do with is the fact that Lizzie said that she, during the time of the murders, where were you? Because they happened in the house. And she said that she had gone out to the barn loft to look for sinkers to make for going fishing. She was going to go fishing the next week, and she was looking for lead to make sinkers. And at the trial, a policeman said, well, I looked up in the barn loft and I didn't see any freshly overturned hay. Nobody's been up there. Anyway, the new evidence about that presented in this book had to do with the fact that after Lizzie presumably left the barn, but before the policeman looked up in the barn, two neighbor boys, say around 9, 10, 12 years old, crawled up into the barn so they could have an eye view of all the police coming and going. And somebody saw a policeman, or a different policeman saw them leave. And so not only did he not see any freshly overturned hay by Lizzie, but didn't see any by two young boys. So obviously that policeman was mistaken, or didn't know what freshly overturned hay looked like, or he was lying to make himself look important. But anyway, that was good. She also covers Lizzie's life before and after the murders, and in a little more detail than I'm accustomed to reading about. And it was a really, really good book. If you're interested in the Borden murders, I think you'd like this book a lot. But I wanted to just take a moment and just talk about some of the other Borden books that I have read and haven't read while we're doing this. Because why not? You might be interested. This book has an interesting theory that I've liked for a long time. The Truth, the Legend, the Truth, the Final Chapter by Arnold Brown. He did a bunch of research that led him to believe that an illegitimate son of Andrew Borden lived, if you imagine, behind the Borden house and one house to the left. And there weren't any fences. So people could come and go. But that there was a woman that Andrew had an affair with, an illegitimate son, who was not insane, I think, but somewhat slow and a little troubled. And wanted Andrew to give him some money, and Andrew wouldn't give it to him. And this guy determined he thought he did it. This is a book, The History of the Borden Murders Illustrated. This is a facsimile of the original book, which was the first book about the Borden murders, published in 1893 by Edwin Porter, who was a reporter on the, and spread a lot of lies about the trial. But anyway, he reported on the trial, and it's fascinating to have this facsimile of that. Can't necessarily be believed. This is the first book I read, and this is one of the better ones. This is by Edward Radin. And if I remember correctly, this is pretty much just the facts. I think he ultimately leans toward the maid having done it, but not so much that it isn't an objective book. This is the one I would highly recommend. This one I have not read. My understanding, this is Goodbye Lizzie Borden by Robert Sullivan. This one, see, I've got some in reserve for future reference. He really covers the legal aspects of it. He goes on the assumption that she did it, and delves deeply into the trial. A Private Disgrace by Victoria London. This one, apparently, this is written by a woman from Fall River, and she thinks it was PMS, that Lizzie did it while she was PMSing. This one, I seem to have read, but I don't remember anything about it. Isn't that horrid? 40 Wax, New Evidence in the Life and Legend of Lizzie Borden. So I probably have to skim this one again or read it again to remind myself what on earth. There's another one, I think it's just called Lizzie by, I believe his name is Frank Spiering, S-P-I-E-R-L-I-N-G, who thinks Lizzie's sister Emma did it, that she snuck home while she was visiting friends in a nearby town, snuck in, did it, and snuck back out in order to get back to that town in time to be alerted that her parents... Okay. This one is really interesting. This is Lizzie, A Study in Conjecture by Marie... Is it Marie? I think it was Marie. Marie Belloc Lowndes. Let me show you this. And I bought this at the bookstore I worked at, Dietering Book Gallery in Houston, Texas, which is very much like... was very much like 84 Charing Crossroad, you know, dark wood and oriental rugs, and it smells like books, and it was heaven, and I was the bookkeeper. Anyway, it's not only was I able to buy this book, but it was autographed. And not only that, but the author has made corrections. I guess the editor had some mistakes, but the author has actually changed things in the book. So anyway, it had, if I recall, I bought this with no cover on it. So I hired, is that the word? I don't know. We had a customer who was a bookbinder from a town, gosh, I'm thinking 70, 80, 100 miles outside Houston. It was from Pflugerville. I can't remember. Anyway, he was a bookbinder and a customer. Anyway, I had him do a special leather binding on this book for me. This was rather extravagant at the time. It cost me $150, but I had a special binding. Check this out. Okay, okay, but check out the front. That babu. Anyway. So anyway, there are a lot of books out there and a lot of theories, and I still don't think she did it. I don't know who did. I really went for that illegitimate son for a while, but I was reading on one of the websites the other day that somebody has come around behind that and disproved that now. So I'm not sure. I'd have to read what the disproof says. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. That's it for this week. Love y'all. Bye.